the subject. ICIMOD is an intergovernment learning and knowledge center which is serving 8 countries of the Hindu Kush Himalayas. Responding to global challenges and contributing to enhancing resilience and supporting adaptation of the mountain communities. Why mountains? Because mountains occupy 24% of global land surface, 12% of the global population live in mountains, and of that, around 10% are directly dependent on mountains for their livelihoods, and about 40% are indirectly dependent on mountain services. And these services, apart from the supporting services for the mountain ecosystems, also provide provisioning, regulating, and cultural services, which contribute to the well-being of not only mountain people, but also people living downstream. So, mountains are also the world's water towers, providing water, food, energy, biodiversity for people living in the mountains as well as for those downstreams. The Himalayas are also known as the third pole, and they give rise to 10 major rivers of Asia, which support the livelihoods of around 210 million living in the Hindu Kush Himalayas and about 1.3 billion people who are living downstream. The Himalayas have a wide variety of ecosystems and a very rich cultural diversity, which in effect are repositories of biodiversity, including agrobiodiversity, and of traditional knowledge. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I think, are very important characteristics and attributes of the Himalayas, which probably can provide some of the solutions that we are looking for to address the global challenges. Climate change and the Himalayas. The Himalayas are not insular from the rest of the world, and they are also seeing the effects of climate change. This particular slide shows you how increasing temperatures are affecting the mountains. And as you can see, that temperatures are becoming more warmer as you go upwards, more higher in the Himalayas. And the effects are dramatic. There's snow cover which has been reduced in a number of places. We are aware of the glacial melts and the recession which are there. But it's also affecting monsoons. The changes in rainfall pattern, both in intensity, in the duration, rainfall is becoming more erratic. There are more extremes. All of these affect water availability. And the frequency of disasters have started increasing. When we go to the communities in the mountains, they also perceive these changes. And what they are telling us is that the duration of rainfall is decreasing steadily. This is seen more in the western Himalayas compared to the east. Nonetheless, people are seeing a reduction in the duration of rainfall. There's a mirror reflection in terms of the dry spells. Dry spells are increasing and near drought conditions in some of the areas. And this effect, when you go upwards, is very dramatic. It's more in the higher regions. The effects of this are in increased scarcity of drinking water. Natural springs and water sources are drying up. There's loss of productive land, both in terms of habitats of wildlife as well as for livestock and domestic animals, and increased incidences of forest fire. In some areas, the effects are very, very dramatic. The after effects of floods, such as in northeast India in Assam, which after the floods leaves a whole landscape which is completely covered with sand casting, destroying productive agricultural land, the habitats, houses, and in this case, in the photograph, even the schools. So, how do you adapt to changing ecological and climate and social environments and the changes which we are witnessing? Keeping in mind that poverty in the mountains is much higher than in the plains, and there are gendered migration, which means that there is an increased feminization or an increased burden of resource management with the women who are left behind. Isimode looks at it more in a systematic manner. We have the regional transboundary approach, which means that we look at transits covering different, not only transboundaries, but also the different countries which are there, the altitudinal as well as agroecological zones. That's the approach that we take, the first principle. The second is linking upstream and downstreams through the basins, the river basins which are there, and taking the landscape approach such as in Kailash. And the idea is that we try to address scientific uncertainties, trying to understand them, bring about regional cooperation, a framework for research, and in the process also have capacity building and information sharing. Isimode has a dedicated program on adaptation to change, which includes not just climate change, but also socioeconomic changes. And there, we look at the science, which is looking at assessments, methodologies, trying to understand the contours of change, the drivers, what are the impacts, and the support which is required by the communities. From this, we try to design action, which are mostly the pilots that we do, addressing livelihood security and effective adaptive strategies. The two together, the learnings from that, then help in contributing to policy formulation, particularly in regard to effective targeting of interventions, both by Isimode directly as well as by our member countries and the larger global community, and also in designing effective programs for supporting service delivery mechanisms. And these, we hope, when these contribute to policies, would then ultimately address enhanced adaptive capacities of mountain communities. On the ground, we start by trying to understand what are the communities perceiving? How are they seeing climate change? What are the effects? How do they respond to that? What are the capacities? What are the support which are required? These we have been doing over the past years, supported by various donors, and some of these are IFAD, CEDA, ADB, MacArthur, and a number of others. Based on these studies, based on these assessments, it helps us to give a direction in terms of where the action is required. And what we see clearly in the mountains is there's a need for strengthening improved natural resource management, both on farm as well as at the landscape level, looking into income diversification approaches, risk management, but above all, to strengthen responsive local government mechanisms. Just to quickly take you through some of the action on the ground that we are doing. Livelihood diversification options, strengthening that by taking the value chain approach. Addressing the extension and technical backups, bridging the last mile gap between extension agencies and communities. Access to information, particularly on commodity pricing using ICT. Natural resource management in a participatory manner, particularly in challenging atmospheres or environments such as shifting cultivation management. And access to information, particularly in regard to what are the government programs and schemes, the bank or insurance schemes which are there. How do the communities get guidelines, forms, contact details, putting that online and making it available through SHG federations involving the governments and the other agencies which have this. Also in strengthening risk aversion or the preparedness. In this particular case, in flood preparedness, through early warning systems involving the communities, linking that through wireless connections to communities as well as the local government DRR systems. We complement that with flexible planning for enhanced adaptation to flood management. This shows you how we put it up within the communities, in households, so that the warnings are already there. Capacity building, both at the individual levels, as well as with local institutions, national institutions, and supporting strategic partners for capacity enhancement. We also engage in consultative policy engagements. One of the ways is through the Adaptation Learning Highway, which helps in a horizontal and vertical exchange of information and knowledge to strengthen informed decision-making, making local governance more responsive, and contributing to local adaptive strategy formulation. This particular approach helped in formulating the state action plan for climate change adaptation in the state of Uttarakhand in India. Going further, contributing to evidence-based policy making, in this case, for formulating the 12th five-year plan of the Government of India, focused particularly for the mountain areas. Going larger, promoting or supporting approaches which would contribute to adaptation, the green economy, and this is something that we did in partnership with UNEP. Apart from that, providing the knowledge and the support to regional governments in the HKH region, supporting the mountain initiative which was spearheaded by Nepal, and then it went into India, also the mountain days in the Conference of Parties, the UNFCCC process, supporting Nepal in spearheading the mountain issues, contributing the future that we want, and also bringing about the Kathmandu call for action. At the programs level, we also have programs which are trying to reduce the understandings in terms of uncertainties. And one of our flagship programs are the Himalayan Climate Change Adaptation Program, which is supported by the government of Norway and by the government of Sweden through SIDA. This looks at reducing uncertainties, but trying to understand climate change science, the models which is there, environmental science, social sciences, and trying to then bring about the knowledge and information which helps in policy formulation and action. We also partner with the media, and we think that unless and until you have this partnership, you cannot really have an effective dissemination. So we partner with the media to increase understanding, raising awareness, and for shaping policies. And I would like a short video clip to speak about what we are doing here.
My name is Usha Devani. I am from Assam, India, participating in this workshop organized by EC Mode. Today we've had our first field visit in Panchkhal area of Nepal. We've interviewed about 5 people, talking to them how climate change has influenced their usual way of cultivation and the cycles of cropping, and probably put together all of these interviews to show how things have been changing over the years in this place.
So I'm from Delhi. We are on a field visit in Panchkhel, trying to understand the issues of climate change, specifically the stories of water, the stories of the crop change patterns, specifically in this context, in this village context, the kind of potato crop that has been damaged in because of the excess of frost.
My name is Meng Si. I'm coming from China. I'm coming to this village with the group. My main interest is in the water issue and how it is impacted by climate change. I think I found some clue, but I still need some experts' opinion on the sustainability of the water use in this village.
My name is Soilendra Kharel. I'm from Nepal, and currently we visited a few farmland over here, and I met with few farmers, and I'm just moving around to find a story at the moment. So let's see how it goes. Thank you.
I'm Aisha from Pakistan, and we're over here in Nepal looking for stories on climate change.
मेरो नाम सबिना धिताल हो। म क्लास 11 मा पढ्छु। मेरो विषय आर्ट्स हो। म एउटा राम्रो पत्रकार बन्न चाहन्छु र गाउँमै बसेर एउटा पत्रकार बन्न चाहन्छु। मेरो स्कुलको नाम श्री हनुमान हायर सेकेन्डरी स्कुल हो।
In conclusion, I would like to leave you with a thought, a short documentary that Ansel had done, one of the journalists.